26 this morning. It has snowed, it is cold. Let's see if row cover and lights actually kept my plants alive. Good morning, I hope you're doing well. I'm out in my garden, about to harvest some cabbage and whatever else is ready, and it's somewhat fitting because today, the day I'm filming this, is Thanksgiving, which I like to think of as a harvest celebration rather than that somewhat problematic story about pilgrims. In my last video, I talked about getting the garden ready for winter, picking frost-sensitive crops, and this Chinese-style cabbage is frost-sensitive. At least I found it to be, even though the original package doesn't say it is. But we're gonna go from not having a frost to being below 20 degrees, which might be pushing it for something like this. So I'm gonna harvest some of them to make kimchi, but then I'm also going to protect my other beds using some row covers and Christmas lights, which I'll show you here in a little bit. First, it's a nice looking cabbage. I've had much better success growing these in winter versus the spring, or fall versus the spring, because I just find that the bug pressure is so much less. So rather than fighting bugs and feeling like I have to spray, even if it's spraying things like BT and just like soapy water, it's much easier to not have to do anything. Oh, I don't like the cold. These are supposed to form nice dense heads, which I've never really had happen, but this one looks pretty close. That's a nice looking cabbage. To support my row covers, I've been using this heavy gauge wire. I think this is a 9 gauge wire. And for my beds that are 4 feet wide, originally I was using either a 6 or 7 foot length to make the hoop, and then I increased that to 8 feet to give some extra height for that row cover. Let me pull one of those out. See? Nice, easy hoop. Spans the length of the bed, or you can make it a little shorter and taller. Just sticks right in the dirt. Doesn't need much, because then the row cover just sits on top of it and keeps it off the plants. Now for row covers, I've done a few different things in the winter. We're gonna walk and talk. See how that goes. So I've used a few different things. First, I've used just straight plastic, and I was trying to dry it out a few days ago. It rained, it got windy, so this plastic right here, this is stuff we got to cover a window in our first year in this house. That was a big giant window. It was single pane, leaked like a sieve, and it got really cold. So we tacked that up over it. But then I've used it for a few winters now. I think one of the pieces has some holes in it, so I'll have to see when I spread that back out. But this can work pretty nice to keep that heat in. One thing you have to kind of worry about with the plastic, doesn't let rain in and doesn't let moisture out. So if it gets hot, like in Kentucky, we can have winter days where it could be 50, 60, maybe even 70 degrees. Well, if you've got that thing tucked down really tightly, it's gonna make a super hot greenhouse and roast all of your crops. It's gonna be hot and humid in there. So you'll have to kind of monitor the temperature, and if it gets really warm, you'll have to lift it up to make sure that there's good airflow under there. Then in the evening, put it back down. Sometimes I wonder if it's way too much work for keeping a few bed of vegetables alive, but nonetheless, this is my hobby. I think the other row cover I have is actually inside, so let me go grab that. Okay, I have two different ones. This right here is Agribon. This is the Agribon 30. It comes in a few different sort of strengths. I think maybe 15, 30, 50. It's just the thickness of the fabric. This one is the middle one. Works really well. I used this last year. You can save it, but as you see, I have a new package here because when I rolled it up with my shade cloths and other thing and put my little building out here, it made a great place for mice to nest in because it's nice and soft. So they chewed through it to make a nice little nest and ruined what I had. So next time when I roll this up to save it, I will be putting it in a plastic tote with a lid. So that I have used before. This one, I have not used this brand before. The generic one, kind of on Amazon. So we'll see how this goes. This one's a little bit wider and longer for the price. So I will also be trying out this one for my row covers. But the big thing that I did last year, which felt a little silly, but worked really well, was adding lights under my row covers. So here's my box from Amazon. I will keep telling myself I'm gonna buy less stuff from Amazon and shop local, but this was one of the things where it's actually somewhat hard to find locally. These Christmas lights. Now you can find regular Christmas lights or just any sort of Christmas lights, but these ones are the old style Christmas lights that have the little, it's like the old style bulbs. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. So not the LEDs for decorating your house, decorating your tree, for just the regular light bulbs in your house. Yes, use LED light bulbs. So much more energy efficient. One of the reasons that they're energy efficient is they don't waste a lot of the electricity converting it to heat. A lot of heat gets put off of the old style light bulbs, which is not great when the only thing you're trying to do is to light up a room. However, I don't actually want the light. I'm not gonna, it looks kind of cool when you look out your window and your raised beds are lit up. Very, very festive. It feels like I'm decorating the garden for Christmas. But these put off heat, and that's what I want. I want the heat at night generated under there, because the row cover, especially something like the plastic, that'll keep it warm during the day. The sun is out, it's going to create a greenhouse effect. The light will penetrate in, it'll bounce around before it gets out and escapes. It'll trap some heat, which is good. Now, in the evening, at night, when the sun isn't out, that heat is pretty quickly going to dissipate back out, especially in a raised bed. You don't have the greatest thermal sink. I tried some things with filling water, like big giant jugs of water, and putting those under there to see if that would help at all. No difference. I put 2 different thermometers last year and sensors to see the temperature difference. It wasn't enough. So they probably weren't big enough masses of water to be a thermal sink to then radiate that back out in the evening. But that's something you can do in like a greenhouse with a big enough mass of water. A gallon jug just wasn't enough. So I'm going to rip out the trellis that's over there. Just hasn't been the best spot for it, which will make it a little bit easier for me putting up row cover on this one row and get to putting this up so I can show you guys what it looks like. I might need gloves. My hands are kind of chilly. I wonder if I can just rip this out without... Yep. Well, at least that part. Gloves would also be good for this. Oh well. Okay, let's get you out of here. Oh, that's heavier than I remember. All right, so I've got my cut wire. This looks like this might be the, these are the 6-foot ones I did, so the shorter ones. If you have a 4-foot wide bed, I would go 8 feet on these. 8 feet on these. I think it's just a little bit better, but these will do totally fine for my cabbages, my kale that aren't too tall. Yep, just poke them into the ground. Nice and easy like that. You can use 3 or 4 to a bed. If you've got the taller ones, I find that you can actually get away with 3. Because on the ends, because it's taller and sloping down, with these ones as low as they are, you really need 4 across the bed. I don't think this is a flattering angle for me. Oh. So now that I've got my wires up to string the Christmas lights, the Christmas lights come with these nice little hooky, clampy, flangey dealios. I think that's the technical term on them, which make it really easy for clipping on the wire. And these ones that I got, I'm pretty sure 25 feet. Yes, 25-foot string lights, which also was a little bit hard because they wanted to sell me, all the ones were like 50 or 100 feet. I like the 25-foot ones because with my 8-foot bed, I can do essentially 3 runs back and forth of them for one bed. I guess if you had your beds close enough, you can kind of go from bed to bed with a longer string of lights. I just like the fact that I could use one string of lights, the 25 feet, for a bed. Okay, let's see which end has the plug. So that end will be over here because my extension cord's going to come this way. What are you? Oh, we got some noisy woodpeckers. So when these kind of slide down a little bit, it's fine. So ideally, don't want the light bulb sitting like right on a plant probably. It might burn it, but I didn't have any issues last year with them getting so hot that they melted the plastic or anything. They were totally fine. If you've done this and had this experience, please let me know. It'd be good to share with other people to make sure that they don't burn down the garden. For those of you who feel that you can't decorate for Christmas until after Thanksgiving, I hope you forgive me. I hope this doesn't ruin our friendship. No, yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Okay, one strand down. I'm gonna try out this new frost blanket row cover. Cold fingers don't work that well. Now for my raised beds, on the edges, keep the row cover down, I use a 4x4 a brick, a pot with a plant in it, or no plant in it. Whatever you got. Doesn't need to be fancy. And I've seen people clipping their row cover to the wire rings. I haven't found that that is necessary. I always feel a little bit like Clark Griswold when I plug in Christmas lights. They look good, or they'll keep it warm. I don't think aesthetics is exactly what I'm going for here. Okay, I'm severely underdressed for how cold it is, and this is gonna make my video jump around in the chronological series of events, but I thought it would be an interesting experiment to see, did my lights actually work? So right now, it is 28 degrees outside. It was 26 this morning. It has snowed. It is cold. Let's see if row cover and lights actually kept my plants alive. They look great. Look at the kale. Look at that. That is a cabbage that is supposed to be frost intolerant. Frost intolerant. I said it wrong. Only realized when I was editing. Let's look at the second bed, which I think in the video I've yet to cover. I'm jumping around. I'm sorry. This drives my wife nuts in movies. Oh, but look at this. This plant right here. This is a mustard. Looking great. Let's see how a mustard that is uncovered looks. They're still green, but they're droopy. They're a little, definite frost damage. They may perk back up, but there is some clear cellular damage. Does it make me sound smart if I say the word cellular? Cellular kind of sounds like cell phone signal. But yeah, cell damage from the water expanding and lysing. Is that the right word there? Lysing the cell. They explode. Yeah, so lights work. Back to the video, or the chronological series of events that I recorded. And then the next thing I have to ask myself is, what other beds to do in lights? If so, how? To use the same fabric that I used, to use some plastic, to use the Agribond material. So this bed right down here is right next to the other bed, but the problem is I've got these lovely Swiss chard. Camera. There we go. Lovely Swiss chard. So I could end the row cover right before them. I also have this trellis in the back that has peas, but they're probably going to be done when it hits 19 degrees in a few days. So I could do that, or I could risk it, which is always tempting, just to see how far I can push things in the garden. To what degree do I actually need row covers? Because even though I've spent money on it multiple years in a row, I'm making a video about it, I do think about the environmental impact of the plastic, the electricity, and the fact that, we did pretty well growing food for ourselves without these things that have only existed really in the past 100 years. Widely available. So I do wonder about that. I always have the idea of making some cold frames. I do have, let me show you. I've got some old storm windows that are glass that I think would be really good for making some cold frames. Here those are. these were in our crawl space. And that way I could use them every year and not have to worry about mice eating them up, burrowing in them getting ripped. But that is something that didn't happen this year. Oh well. Always more stuff to do, more projects. Okay, let's see how my daikons are doing. Got a lot of foliage. Do we have any good root mass? So here's some small ones. Here we go. There's a nicer chunky boy. Oh yeah. There we go. But that does not compare to the one I have over here. Just look at that bad boy. I mean, it's probably inedible, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull it. That's a big daikon radish. I've got kale and salad greens that I put under this shade cloth because I didn't really harden them off well. And I just never really took it off, even though, I mean, it's November, almost December, they don't really need it. But they've kind of flourished under it, looking pretty good. So I'm gonna grab some small little kale leaves. At this point, I think I need to take it off and maybe add some other row cover to now trap heat. This is some real nice delicate kale. And I'm gonna pick some of that Swiss chard. I really like growing Swiss chard because I think it's really pretty. However, we don't eat a lot of Swiss chard. So I end up growing it more for its aesthetic, the fact that insects don't tend to bother it. So just a nice, healthy looking plant in the garden. But it's doing so well, so I'm gonna pick some. I think I can make a good soup with it if I devein it, chop that up, onions, garlic, maybe some celery. I don't know, I feel that's celery-esque. Maybe carrots, then a nice broth, and then save the greens to add towards the end so they don't cook down totally to mush. I think that'll be good. These mustards, that's pretty. They almost remind me of a bok choy, which is something that I want to grow next year. I really like bok choy. Bok choy I eat. Know what to do with more so than Swiss chard, even though they're very similar. Close enough, I think. Just look at it. It's just a pretty plant. It's nice deep red. Got red and green. Then it also can come in like an orangish yellow variety, pink, even white. So I'm definitely gonna grow a lot more next year because I like the look of it. Just a pretty plant. But I need to find some good recipes for my Swiss chard. Also known as a silver beet. I know that because one of you guys commented about how well the silver beets were doing in your garden. And I had no idea what you were talking about. Quick Google search, Swiss chard. That looks a little rough. Oh, and you have to check this out. I think this is pretty wild. I mentioned it, I think, last week. Strawberry. Another one wasn't quite ripe. I ate some more earlier before I decided to record me eating a strawberry. High quality strawberry eating content. That's a good one. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Where you get them where they're almost like overripe. I started these from seed this year. Back in January, these were tiny little grains, little tiny, teeny tiny seeds that I first cold stratified in my fridge and grew them in my laundry room. Now I got some strawberries. Pretty cool. Okay, I'm likely going to end the video right here, I think. If I don't, you'll never see this. But these videos that I've been doing over the past few weeks have been a little bit longer and less structured. And I personally like them better. When I'm watching them, I feel more like myself, more natural. That when I come up with an idea and I research it and kind of script it out and I'm reciting those things, it just feels a little stilted, stiff, fake. And it doesn't feel like me, like I'm sharing part of my actual personality. So I like these better. If you've made it to this far, I think you also like them too, a little bit. Let me know, please. Please leave me a comment, letting me know if you like this style video more than the structured, concise, here's a bit of information. Because I like these where I can share information, kind of document what I'm doing, documenting my life in a longer format video. But if they do horribly, I guess I'll do something different. I do want to make videos that people watch. Okay, my name is Tyler Lloyd. I wish you the very best. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, Harvest Day, and can celebrate time with friends and family this winter and holiday season. Bye. Ugh, nope. Something was off with that one. Okay, that's another good one.